My next guest is the passionate founder of RiseToday.com, and she serves as an empowered mindset health expert. She's a master of resilience, resolve, positivity, fortitude, and gratitude. And she's not only survived, but has truly thrived through seemingly relentless, insurmountable feats, including a terminal cancer diagnosis where she was told she only had 2 months to live. We are many years later now. She is Dr. Erica Harris, and she joins me on the line. Good evening, Erica.
Hello, Maureen. It's an honor to be back on the show with you. Always love our time together.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining me. You know, I thought of you. I don't want to get too much ahead of the story. If you can just give actually the listeners a little background on, what you've been through over the last 12, is it 12 years now? When you had that?
Oh, gosh. I think all started about 9 years ago now, but yeah.
9 years ago.
Yeah. So I had lived a life passionate about health and wellness. I was a thriving sports chiropractor and kinesiologist. I had even inspired my entire community to live its best health status. And I certainly practiced what I preached by every measure. I hiked every mountain and soared down them all on my skis. I was incredibly happily married. I was a young doting mom to my 2 beautiful baby boys, and I was 35 years old at the time and still nursing my youngest when this big fire-breathing dragon of cancer came into my world. And I had been diagnosed, despite living this life passionate about health and wellness. Shockingly, I was diagnosed with what proved to be a very aggressive version of leukemia. I did not respond to even the harshest of chemotherapy regimens, known as salvage chemotherapy. I was awarded a 2-month terminal prognosis, denied all further medical treatment aside from palliative care moving forward, but I fought to go home for these 2 babies if I had 2 months to live. Gosh, I had so much living to do.
And the other option was palliative care, right?
Yeah, they denied all further medications moving forward. And so when I was back on the home front, I definitely prepared for the worst, and I made all of those, gut-wrenchingly heartfelt and hard to do letters for my children. And literally prepared for the worst in every way. And I accepted this big beast of cancer and all that it brought with it. And but at the same time, I expected the best. And I fought and I pursued any and everything in the natural healthcare realm just to get to continue to be mom. And miraculously, Maureen, I attained a miraculous remission from this 2-month terminal prognosis. And only then was I able to serve as a recipient for a bone marrow transplant, which serves as a quote-unquote cure to prevent against relapse. And miraculously, with thanks to this amazing donor who rose to help from halfway around the world in Germany, who proved to be my perfect match after this worldwide exhaustive search has been hailed on my behalf, rose to help in my time of need and gave me this second chance. And I grew strong. I was back to hiking every mountain, teaching my kids to ski, and I was very well, but this was all super short-lived. And my new hardy immune system, through my donor, decided to kind of wake up, look around, and decided it didn't recognize my own lungs and embarked on this fierce process of attack through rejection, just like it would attack a cold or a flu. And a bug from a cold or a flu, and I did a very thorough job. I fell to 80 pounds. I had been prescribed full-time oxygen. Gosh, I grew so sick from the harsh medications. I lost my vision. I had steroid-related cataracts. I couldn't read a book. I couldn't see the television. I couldn't drive. I had no independence. I couldn't even walk across my kitchen without feeling like I would lose control of all bodily functions because I just couldn't get in enough air. It was so brutally hard to stay the course. And how hard when for something great to happen to me, something terrible has to happen to somebody else. It was really, really challenging. Again, only with thanks to the family of another who, through their most kindest and selflessness of efforts, in their most hardest of times, was I gifted the gift of new lungs. And
so you had a double lung transplant.
I had a double lung transplant.
So we've had a gentleman in Canada who's had a double lung transplant as a result of COVID, the very first one. Yes. So you understand what he's going through at this time. So it's one thing to suffer, as you describe. It's something else to receive the lungs of another, to have somebody breathe air into you. What is it like in that recovery period?
Yeah, you go through a lot of ups and downs, and the times in the ICU, it was really challenging. And I kind of thought right away, like, oh my gosh, as soon as that breathing tube would come out, how easy that first breath would be. I just assumed this going into that surgery, and I couldn't wait for that first breath. And gosh, what a letdown it was when I tried breathing, and right away I needed to go back on the breathing tube because I had completely forgotten, Maureen, how to breathe. Mm-hmm. And I had adopted such crazy mechanisms to survive in this time and just to get the smallest bit of air in that I literally forgot how to breathe and how to use just basic muscles to do basic respiration. So I needed to work with respiration therapists literally to relearn the simplest gift that we all take for granted, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How to breathe. And that climb back was a really hard climb back. I also, with that very beautiful gift came a virus that I had never been exposed to. It's a very prevalent virus in the general community. Over 90% of our community has been exposed to it, but I just hadn't been exposed to it. And having had the bone marrow transplant before, I couldn't produce my own immunoglobulins to new bugs. And so I faced another year in the hospital trying to fight this bug. I grew resistant to all forms of treatment. I was called the Hail Mary of our province's largest hospital. No one knew what to do with me. And I had another miracle in 2017 where I just grew strong to this darn bug for reasons people can't really explain. And 6 weeks later, as soon as I'm out of the hospital, so eager for that calm after the storm, my husband chose to divorce. And I then faced a move really soon into my recovery, facing life as a single mom and facing legal battles. And I assure you, despite it all, and despite the very obvious hardships, because as I'm even saying this story, you can hear all the obvious hardships. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to deny those hardships. But despite those obvious hardships, I feel incredibly blessed to have navigated all that I did. I feel as though I've been chosen to go through this crazy tidal wave, to be pummeled around and around and around, and to get to come out of it on this side and to serve in the capacity that I do now as a speaker and as a coach to really help others cope more positively with stressors and to bounce back and to live their most vibrant lives with the gift of today. Because today, no matter what we are navigating, is truly a gift. And as I said in my TED Talk, so many of my friends would come back for one more day, even living with cancer, even living with whatever hardships they were living with, what they would do for just one more day with their kids or with their loved ones. And so really just the message of cherishing today, it's often overlooked, right? And we get caught up in the hustle and bustle of life. But the gift of today really is a gift of today. And if we can appreciate it for that, our life and our perspective and our mindsets can turn around in an instant.
Welcome back to the Sunday Night Health Show. Maureen McGrath hosting this program for you. Dr. Erica Harris is my guest. She is the founder at risetoday.com. She has survived miraculously a 2-month terminal cancer diagnosis, bone marrow transplant, double lung transplant. She's on the line with me. She has an inspirational podcast. She's a speaker. She's a coach. Dr. Harris, I have a caller on the line, Catherine. Hello, Catherine.
Hi. There's parts of your story that run parallel with mine, and ever since I was born, I was only in my mother's womb for half her pregnancy, so I've had a lot of issues since birth, and then I ended up getting salmonella and was pregnant with my daughter, and then I ended up where I couldn't work, but after that, it just goes on and on and on and on. I lived through 9/11 in Ontario, breathing in all that junk, and it just crashed me to the ground. I need to know what has kept you from not giving up. I've used music therapy and just was curious what has kept you from not giving up.
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, a lot of people ask me, how I did what I did as a young mom. And as hard as that was, I would fight to get out of the hospital every day. I would pick up my kids from school. I would make a family meal. I would take them to their after-school sports, and then I would race to get back to the hospital. Adaptability was key on this path. But through all of those unimaginable indignities that I faced, I had adopted this personal power statement, I call it. When I was first diagnosed with leukemia, I didn't know how to explain it to my kids. And I basically said, I lack fighters to fight colds and bugs. And I need to go to the hospital where they can make my fighters stronger. And my oldest was just 4 at the time. And he shouted out, "Go fighters, go mama." And that instantly became what I refer to as my personal power statement. This tiny sentence, but so full of so much empowerment, so much hope, so much promise and so much positivity. And through all of those moments and there were many that I didn't think I had the strength to stay the course. I would feel as though I just came up for a sip of air and that I would be pulled right back down again. And through all of those moments that I really doubted my ability to hang on, I would repeat this power statement and sometimes shouting it out almost violently in my head and in my mind. No one around me even knew that I was doing it, but it would be like, go fighters, go mama, go fighters, go mama, go fighters, go. And I would shout it out until I had the strength again to stay the course for another minute, hour, or day to come until I needed to shout it out all over again. But that always kept me focused and honed in on my North Star, on the prize at the end of the line of what I was always fighting for. It always silenced all of the noise all around me, all of the chaos, and it gave me such clarity and such focus through it all.
And thank you so much for your question, Catherine. Dr. Harris, so you do get down, do you?
Well, I talk very openly. I've had so many awakenings on my journey, and I talk very openly about the importance of being real and allowing ourselves the safe space to feel and express these negative emotions, because I truly believe that when we push these down, they don't go anywhere, right? We foster them. They transform within us, whether they transform to, who knows, cancer, depression, mental health issues, I don't know, whatever potentially else, who knows? But we push them down. And so on this journey, I've had profound awakenings. I've always been a very upbeat and positive girl. But there was this one moment where we had to recruit this new nanny that I didn't even know to take care of my kids. And I watched her leave with my kids. And gosh, my mind just raced. Is she going to drive home safely with them? I want to be that one driving home, right? And I turned around from the window of my hospital and I just wept. And I wept and I wept and I wept. And I didn't stop for days. And this was a problem in healthcare. There's almost this societal pressure to be positive no matter what is happening on our journey all the time. And I needed to grieve and to allow myself to feel the loss of all that cancer came to steal. I had to miss my son's 5th birthday party. That was brutally hard. I had to abruptly stop nursing my youngest. That was brutally hard. I needed to give myself this space to let myself feel it and to let myself feel and express this hurt. And I didn't stop for days. I also let out, a lot of emotions that I had buried down from years before. And I wouldn't even call it from trauma necessarily, but we've all faced little challenges along the way that perhaps we've tried to negate and say, oh yeah, I'm fine. But in that moment of having this diagnosis and watching this nanny that I didn't even know go home with my kids, it all just came out. I finally allowed myself to switch, like an active switch from self-judgment to self-compassion for the first time in my life. And I really advocate with my coaching clients and on stages everywhere that we all need to create this safe space to allow ourselves that vulnerability, to really feel these negative emotions. We can do so through music. We can create playlists, right? We're all connected to hurt through playlists. I mean, how many songs are about breakups and the hurt we experience? And so for me, I would take those songs that were about that ex, but that would be to my cancer.
Right.
And I would sing out my hurt, like Kelly Clarkson, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I would sing that out to my cancer with every part of me. And so being real is so important. Like first step, I would say, in anything. And then really switching, to the power of now, I call it. Like I'm a big fan of Eckhart Tolle's work and Eckhart Tolle, and like just switching to the power of now, right? From that big focus of cancer, if my focus stayed on that focus of cancer, I don't think I would be productive in here today. I had to take my focus back to the power of right here and right now. How can I maximize my health, my happiness, my life right in this moment? Because this moment is all that I am gifted. So how can I make this time better? Whether that's turning up the music and playing a happy playlist, whether that's calling a friend, whether that's quality time with my kids, right? And then there's always the reframe, the story that we tell ourselves becomes the story that we are. And so what is that story that you tell others about your hardship, whether it's cancer, whether it's COVID, whether it's divorce? What are the lessons that came in that adversity? And how can you change that story to have really empowered you? So rewrite that story that you've gone through of hardship and find your most empowering way to tell that story. I learned this, and because of that, I've become X person, right? Really do that reframe and craft that out. Take charge, take back the power, and fuel your body with, whatever. There's so passionate nutrition habits out there and various diets, whatever you resonate with and whatever you think is making change in your body, do it and fuel your mind. Take this very proactive role in your health, and your success lies in your job to do so. And it's not on the doctors. It's not on everybody else where they are all there to support us and help us. But at the end of the day, this is on us, and adopting that proactive role in our own success in whatever we are navigating is so, so, so important. Create this tribe, this community of support, and build a great team for yourself. We cannot do this on our own. We need help every step of the way.